So, Ty, it's 3 a.m. You've been rudely awoken by a flashing screen on your mobile phone, and you're alerted that your app is down because that Kubernetes cluster didn't scale in time. You spot a bunch of missed calls and urgent text messages on your mobile, and as you're waking up, rubbing your eyes. Does all of that sound familiar to you?
Been there, done that, John. It's every op team's nightmare, scrambling to fix a cluster when you'd rather be catching some Z's asleep.
Absolutely. Now imagine those late night fire drills just disappearing. Imagine your Kubernetes clusters managing themselves, scaling, healing, and auto updating while you focus on those bigger things.
And on the AI side, what if deploying a complex machine learning model was as easy as issuing just a single command without wrestling with GPUs and dependencies and all that good stuff?
Yeah, and I guess this all might sound like a bit of a dream, but Azure is making moves to turn it into a reality. So, welcome to AZBytes, your bite sized blast of Azure brilliance, where we break down Microsoft Azure tech for real world impact. I'm John.
And I'm Ty. And in today's episode, we're diving into two, not one, but two game changes and updates with Azure Kubernetes World. Azure Kubernetes Service Automatic, which is AKS Automatic, and the power of Kubernetes AI Toolchain Operator, or KAITO. These promise to take the pain out of managing Kubernetes and unleashing AI in ways we've not even seen before. John?
Yeah, absolutely. Nice intro, Ty. So, look, Kubernetes is awesome, for running containerized applications, but I think we've got to be honest with ourselves. Running Kubernetes itself can really be a full-time job. You've got to set up all those clusters, pick the right VM sizes, manage all that node scaling, and apply security configs, and as well as keeping everything updated, right?
Yeah, John, and not to mention debugging when a node crashes or manual installing monitoring tools. There's a lot to it. And actually, many businesses struggle with the operational complexities. They want the benefits of K8s, but without the headache of maintaining it.
Yeah, and I guess first off, this is where AKS Automatic comes in. It's a new managed offering. It's currently in preview. That basically puts Kubernetes on autopilot. Azure takes care of your entire cluster setup, that node management, scaling, security, you name it, and it'll make you use best practice configurations straight out of the box. So, in other words, it makes the most common Kubernetes tasks fast and frictionless to you.
So it's like AKS just leveled up, yeah? So we're already had Azure Kubernetes Services, so AKS, managing the control plane, but AKS Automatic goes further. It's the provisioning and managing of the worker nodes automatically. Is that right, John?
Yeah, precisely, Ty. With standard AKS, you still had to decide things like how many nodes, like I say, what VM sizes we're going to use, what your scaling options, and so on and so forth. So with AKS Automatic, Azure's going to dynamically add that compute, request to your applications as they need it, and when they need it, more importantly. So no more manually adding node pools every time that you deploy bigger and bigger apps, or you see those traffic spikes. The platform scales the cluster automatically for you.
So it's a bit like having cruise control for your cluster, which is music to my ears. But what about best practices? A lot of folks worry they might misconfigure something in Kubernetes or leave a security hole or performance bottleneck or something else.
Yeah, and I guess, Ty, AKS Automatic has got you covered here too. So Microsoft pre-configures these clusters with production-ready settings, right from the start. So it means things like security policies, monitoring, networking, they're set to sensible defaults. It'll follow Azure's well-architected guidelines that we all know and love. For example, RBAC, roles-based access control is on. Certain security features are enabled by default, and it even patches and upgrades the cluster components for you on a schedule. So it's hardened setup straight out the gate.
So what I'm hearing in plain English is your cluster comes out fully tuned and secure without you having to be with a Kubernetes guru, and it auto scales both pods and nodes, even uses tricks like bin packing, fitting workloads effectively into nodes, which, let's be truthfully honest, maximizes utilization, and it could mean better performance and cost efficiencies since you're not leaving servers idle.
Yeah, exactly right. Think of it this way. In the past, like you say, if we had a sudden surge in users, we'd kind of pray our manual autoscaler was set correctly, or we'd be scrambling around to add that capacity. But with AKS Automatic, the cluster's more self-driving. It observes your workloads and it kind of says, "Hey, I need another node here," or I can remove another node, and like you say, save some of those costs now. It's a real proactive scaling opportunity.
And guess what? Fewer idle nodes means you're not paying for cloud VMs you're not using. So, John, that's a commercial win. Cost savings. John, how good
Yeah,
is
yeah,
that?
absolutely, Ty. Plus another consideration of operational savings outside of that. But if Azure is handling all that patching, scaling, and node health, yes, it will also auto repair unhealthy nodes too. Your team can spend far less time on that maintenance. So instead, you can get them to focus on developing new features or optimizing the app completely. Which is really what is going to drive that business value.
Yeah, I'm loving that. This addresses the real problems, the Kubernetes talent gap. Not every company has an army of KA experts. AKS Automatic lowers that barrier. You can get robust, production ready clusters without deep expertise, and guess what? In a fraction of the time.
Yeah, and in fact, Microsoft touts code to Kubernetes in minutes. Meaning you can go from just a container image to a running application that follows best practices almost automatically. It's trying to make Kubernetes a one-click or maybe a few-click experience rather than these week-long projects.
So, John, just summing up for us viewers and listeners, AKS Automatic's value is classed in three ways. One, speed and simplicity. You can provision Kubernetes clusters that are ready for production in minutes, with Azure handling the heavy lifting. No need to manually set up the nodes or infrastructure, so it's largely wizard driven and fast. Number two, hands off operations. So routine tasks, scaling, node provisioning, patching, automated by Azure. This means fewer midnight emergencies, better night's sleep, and less time spent on maintenance. And then three, built-in best practices. Security and performance configurations are enabled by default. So we're following Azure best practices. Guess what? Reduces misconfiguration risks, and your cluster is hardened and monitored from day one, which again boosts reliability and trust in the solution. So there's some huge organizational benefits, technically and commercially. Faster deployment, fewer maintenance hours, which is obviously faster time to market and lower labor cost. And a secure, well-tuned cluster means less risk of outages to the business or breaches.
Exactly, Ty. It's Kubernetes, but easier and safer. So I guess now let's switch gears a little bit and look at the other star of today's show, KAITO.
All right, KAITO. Wow. Well, that sounds either like a superhero or a supervillain, or maybe just an anime character. So, John, what's the thing with this thing?
Okay, so KAITO stands for Kubernetes AI Toolchain Operator. It's essentially an add-on for AKS that supercharges your cluster for AI workloads. So in simple terms, KAITO makes it much easier to deploy and manage AI models, like those fancy large language models on a Kubernetes cluster.
Ooh, so it's a bit like an AI sidekick for your cluster, yeah?
Yeah, exactly, Ty. Think about the usual process of what's involved in deploying a machine learning model in production. You need to containerize the model. You need to ensure that you've got enough nodes with enough GPUs, maybe install the right ML frameworks, deal with the drivers, figure out how to serve the model with an API, monitor its performance, so on and so forth. It's a lot of moving parts, right?
Yeah, it's definitely not trivial. And do you know what? I've seen teams struggle for weeks just to get a single ML model reliably running in Kubernetes.
Yeah, exactly. And look, KAITO aims to cut that down to maybe one command or a single config file. Microsoft introduced KAITO as an AKS extension, and it's not long gone GA, so generally available now for all Azure customers on your Azure AKS clusters. And with KAITO, you can enable it on your AKS cluster and basically say, "Hey, I want to deploy this model." The operator then takes care of provisioning exactly what you need.
That sounds interesting, but I can hear as listeners saying, John, can you give me a better example or a concrete example?
Yeah, of course, sure. So, I mean, let's just say that your business wanted to use an open source large language model, LLM, something similar to GPT style models, maybe to run a chatbot or do some document analysis. Without KAITO, you'd have to set up the GPU nodes on AKS. You'd have to pick the right kind of GPU VM and hope it's enough and not too much. Install maybe Torch or TensorFlow, set up that inference server, and then wire it all up together, right? Now, with KAITO, you can literally write a few lines of YAML declaring what you need and what you want with a certain model, and KAITO will just deploy it. It'll pull the model, it'll have the serving runtime, it'll even attach the endpoint view. It's declarative AI deployment fundamentally.
That's absolutely insane, but in a good way, John. So what we're saying is one simple command or config and boom, your AI is alive.
Yeah,
Loving
exactly.
it.
That's the
I'm
dream,
loving
right?
it.
Yeah, exactly that. In fact, they've shown that with one command, you can get started deploying an LLM on an edge AKS cluster, and it brings up another point actually. With KAITO, it's not just about cloud clusters. It works with Azure Arc enabled Kubernetes as well. So it means if you have AKS running on prem or on an edge service, say in a factory or maybe a retail store, you can use KAITO there as well.
Wow, so you can run AI at the edge that easy. That's massive. I mean, a lot of industries need AI on site for low latency or data privacy reasons, or examples like pipeline leak detection, factory optimization, are using local AI models, or maybe image inferencing for footfall detection in retail stores. And normally that would be such a massive effort, but you're saying Kato streamlines it.
Yes, that's the point. The edge scenario is really kind of a sweet spot. KAITO lets you deploy all those open source models that run locally, but behave like a cloud AI service. So it'll even expose OpenAI compatible endpoints, meaning that your app can talk to it as if it is an actual OpenAI service.
Which is pretty cool. But what about resource management? We all know that AI models can be a bit of a diva, using too much memory or need a specific GPU.
Yeah, I hear you, Ty. I look. The point is, KAITO is going to be able to help there too. It's got built-in intelligence, and it'll recommend the right GPU types, and it'll also validate model compatibility. So you're less likely to hit some of those, nasty out-of-memory errors or picking on the wrong hardware. Essentially, it tries to prevent those common mistakes, like choosing a model that's too big for your GPU, by doing some checks and balances for you.
So I'm hearing I've also now got a smart AI ops assistant, and it says, hey, you want to deploy Model X? You're going to need at least an NVIDIA graphics cards with XXX or whatever, saving you from trial and error. Brilliant.
Precisely, more or less, Ty. Yeah, and once the model is running, KAITO also integrates with Azure's monitoring tools as well. So it uses things like Azure's managed Prometheus and Grafana to show all those inference metrics straight out of the box. So you can really see how your AI model is performing, things like throughput, latency, etc., without a ton of custom script.
So to break down Kato's benefits for our listeners, AI deployments made easy. Deploying large AI models on Kubernetes becomes almost push of a button, and it's that simple. You can enable Kato as an add-on and quickly get LLMs running with minimal fuss. This reduces weeks of work from literally hours or less. Number two, edge and hybrid AI. So what do I mean by that? Kato works with AKS in Azure and, more importantly, Arc enabled clusters. So that's on-prem and edge. This means you can bring AI to whatever and wherever your data lives, whether it's cloud data centers, factory floors, or even shop stores, addressing low latency and data sovereignty needs. Number three, and the final one is optimized and right size. So the operators help choose the correct infrastructure. So think GPU, memory, so on and so forth. And it avoids errors like out of memory crashes by validating your setup. So it's like having an expert sat on your shoulder, guiding through your build process, saving you money by not over provisioning under provisioning. And do you know what? The best thing is it's all cost efficiencies.
It's a great summary, to be honest, Ty. Yeah, well put. And I think the other thing from a business perspective, that last point is kind of key. AI infrastructure can be costly, right? You don't really want to be guessing what your hardware, what your hardware requirements are going to be. KAITO's guidance can prevent that overspending on superfluous GPUs, and its monitoring really helps to ensure that you're going to actually utilize what you've got provisioned.
Another thing to consider that we've not mentioned is time to value. If we're deploying an AI feature, generally speaking, it takes a month with a ton of engineering work, but KAITO cuts it down to days, even less. So that means that you can get to market faster. So for a business, being early or quick to market with new AI driven features can be a massive competitive advantage.
Yeah, absolutely, Ty. And don't forget the innovator's dilemma with AI, right? Lots of companies want to experiment with ML and LLMs, but they kind of hold back because it's too complex or risky to integrate. So this is really going to lower that barrier. It means more teams can try out AI solutions safely and cheaply, which could lead to breakthroughs internally, better analytics, automation, customer service bots, etc.
Okay, so I'm just thinking now, maybe a little bit out loud. So let's take a step back. We've introduced not one, but two advancements today. One aimed at simplifying cloud operations, and that's AKS Automatic, and one aimed at simplifying AI deployments, which is KAITO. So, what's the golden nugget here for our viewers and listeners, John?
Yeah, so I guess the gold nugget is that cloud tech is evolving to remove all these hurdles. If managing Kubernetes was holding you back, AKS Automatic is here to remove that friction. If deploying AI was a stumbling block, KAITO is there smoothing that path as well.
Exactly. So, key takeaways then Kubernetes on Autopilot, which is Azure AKS Automatic, gives you a hands free Kubernetes experience. You get a production ready cluster configured with best practices and automated scaling management from day one. Remember, this is going to save you time, reduce the need for in-house KA experts, and curb the risk for misconfiguration. All right, then you got number two, AI in a snap. Okay, with the KAITO add-on running advanced AI and ML workloads on Azure Kubernetes is dramatically simplified. One command or config can deploy complex AI models, even in edge environments, like we've said, with the right resources and monitoring already set up for you. So this, remember, empowers businesses like yours out there to leverage AI faster and in more places, i.e. cloud and edge, without a huge investment in ML ops, which has got to be fantastic. And then number three, business benefits unlocked. Both features are ultimately there to solve real business problems. They cut down operational toil and accelerate innovation. So less time fixing servers or wrestling with machine learning infrastructure means more time to add value. It means that you can also help control your costs through optimized resources, increase reliability through automated best practices, which hits the bottom line, obviously, in a very positive way.
Yeah, well said, Ty. And I guess if you're a decision maker, this message here, it really is these tools can free up your team and budget. Instead of 5 people maintaining infrastructure, maybe 4 of them can focus on developing new features because Azure is handling all of that grunt work. Instead of hesitating to implement an AI solution, you can pilot in a day or in days and kind of see if it's worth it.
Right, John, I'm sold. 100% sold. So, how do our viewers get started and learn more?
Yeah, great point, Ty. So first, if you're intrigued by AKS Automatic, give it a try in Azure. It's in preview as of now, but when you create a new AKS cluster, look for that automatic option, spin up a test cluster, see how much it does for you. Deploy an app to it and see what the handling of and the scaling of all the management bits look like. Keep in mind it is still in preview, so maybe don't go throwing that mission critical production app onto it just yet, but definitely give the car the tires a kick, right?
Definitely. And for KAITO, since it's generally available, you can enable it on your AKS clusters today. Check out the Azure documentation for step-by-step guides And do you know what? Why don't you try deploying a simple AI model, or even if it's small, just to see how smooth the process can be. If you have a edge scenario, why don't you test it with Arc enabled clusters? Obviously, you need a little bit of spare hardware, but go for it.
Yeah, indeed. And as always, we encourage to share your feedback. Microsoft is iterating fast all the time, on these tools and more. So AKS Automatic is evolving, KAITO is fresh off the press. So your experience of feedback can really shape their future. Drop comments, on Azure forums, or reach out to Microsoft reps with your feedback and whatever it is that you find.
And viewers and guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's discussion and it sparked some ideas. Next time there's a project coming up, maybe you're going to suggest using Kubernetes to do the grunt work, or trying to deploy one of our AI solutions with KAITO.
Yeah, exactly, Ty. Look, that's what AZBytes is all about, right? Finding those golden nuggets to make your tech life easier and your business more successful.
And if you found this episode helpful and interesting, don't forget to like and hit subscribe to AZBytes for more insightful Azure tech. We have plenty more exciting topics coming up in the near future.
And do share this with your colleagues who might be struggling with K8s or looking to do something with AI solutions. It might save them a ton of hassle. You never know.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Yeah, and until next time, stay curious and keep innovating. This is John.
And I'm Ty, signing off from AZBytes. Happy cloud computing.